come in to do the formal opening of the Triennale on behalf of Excellency John Dramani Mahama. So what I need of you is your understanding to tweak the program just momentarily in order that we await the Vice President arrival for the keynote and formal opening of the Triennale. But once again, to thank ADEA and all of you for accepting to be in Accra, feel at home whilst away from home, enjoy our cuisines, and have a walk through town. If for nothing, you can visit the Kwame Nkrumah Museum and other sites of attraction across Ghana. So the understanding this morning will be to proceed, get our resource person to commence the discussion on education financing. But admittedly, you are all here because you care about the future of the world, because you care about the future of education outcomes, and because you care about us establishing technical benchmarks that allows us to provide digital quality education, respond to gender disparities, geographical differences, and ensure that the vulnerable and disadvantaged are fully represented. So, Madam MC, to all of you I say Akwaba, but I'll do the proper Akwaba when the Vice President arrives. So, colleague ministers, if I haven't recognized you, I'll do so properly when I have another opportunity. Akwaba to you all, and welcome to Accra. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Honorable Ministre, pour votre allocution. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for your short speech. Ladies and gentlemen, as earlier on announced, we will have a plenary session. And as the Honorable Minister has announced, it is going to be on financing education in Africa, perspectives from policymakers and industry leaders. But before we start, I would like to humbly call upon the Deputy Minister for Finance for the Republic of Ghana, who is Honorable Thomas Nyako Ampem, for his short speech. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister for Education for the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Ministers of State from African countries who are here present, our development partners, leaders of our ADEA, Deputy Minister for Education, Dr. Clement Apak, I recognize you. Ladies and gentlemen, I join Honorable Haruna Idrisu to welcome all of you to Ghana, and I commend you, ADEA, for being Africa's premier high-level forum for dialogue, peer learning, exchange of knowledge, and impactful experiences in education. I'm certain that due to the richness of the stakeholders who have gathered here for the 2025 Triennale hosted in Accra, will, in substance and organization, improve upon all the previous 3 held in Ouagadougou, Dakar, and Mauritius. I bring you warm greetings from the Honorable Minister for Finance, Dr. Kasil Atoforsen, Minister for Finance for the Republic of Ghana, on whose behalf I address this gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, despite our shared deep interest in education, my experience in and passion for education sector must have added to my minister's comfort in choosing me to be here today. I trained as a teacher, and so anytime I meet people who have passion for education, I say I have met people of my kind. Ladies and gentlemen, I therefore feel pleased that I have the opportunity to address this distinguished assembly under the theme, Reimagining Education Financing in Africa in the Light of shifts in the global funding landscape. This theme is a clarion call to action, urging us to rethink our priorities, innovate with courage, and make bold choices to secure education for the future of our continent. I am most certain that the emergent strategies to finance education from today's engagement will profoundly influence the trajectory of our continent for generations to come. Distinguished guests, the history of socio-economic development of countries across the world shows that education is always a cornerstone. Nations and regions therefore continue to focus on improving access to and quality of education. Indeed, education has been the basis of some of the most important partnership frameworks between developing and advanced countries. And here I speak of the several international frameworks, including the World Declaration on Education for All initiative by UNESCO in 1990, as well as United Nations Millennium and Sustainable Development Goals, all of which demonstrate strong focus on improving education. Quite naturally, Africa has had its share of development support on the education front. According to the OECD, over $500 billion has been disbursed as aid to education through bilateral and multilateral agencies, with much of the disbursements to Africa. Despite the promises and the expenditure, the World Bank recently declared a learning crisis. Data shows that very large numbers of young people in Africa are not achieving minimum learning standards. The fact is, progress in closing the educational gaps between Africa and the rest of the world and between countries in Africa has been disappointing slow. Therefore, accelerating the pace of progress and bringing the gaps must be the first order priority for Africa. Africa's youthful population estimated at nearly 420 million under the age of 25 requires that we invest significant resources in education. Moreover, we are just 5 years away from the SDGs deadline, and we have Agenda 2063 in focus. Thus, Africa is in a race for its economic fate and future. It is a race against time, a race we must win. Even before Africa increases its speed in the race, the continent faces a dual and present challenge: insufficient domestic funding and a sharp decline in external assistance. The Global Education Monitoring Report reveals that African nations spend on average 4.6% of GDP on public education. Although this expenditure is within the global threshold of 4 to 6% of GDP, the truth is that it is insufficient to unlock the full economic potential of the continent. More worryingly, the breakdown of the educational spending exposes critical systemic imbalances. It shows that primary education accounts for roughly 2% of GDP, and that is about 44% of total education spending. Secondary education absorbs 1.5%, and tertiary education accounts for 1.1%, despite its high per-student cost. On rather alarming note, it has been revealed that investment in pre-primary education is almost negligible, averaging only 0.1% of GDP. This is by UNICEF. UNICEF confirms this and suggests that many African countries allocate less than 2% of their education budgets to early childhood education. This chronic underinvestment at the foundation of learning is at the source of doom loop. It weakens cognitive development, limits future academic achievements, and perpetuates cycles of inequity that erode human capital formation and long-term economic growth. This is the point in time where Africa needs more investment in education. Yet, it is the same time where Africa is contending with the withdrawal of support from long-standing and traditional development partners in the sector. Alongside the recent instant termination of external development funding, which threatened the continuity of initiatives in African countries, there has been a gradual reduction of development assistance from traditional partners. In fact, the share of development aid coming to Africa reached its lowest point in 2023 since the year 2000. At the same time, even borrowing from capital markets is now more expensive than it was in 2010. There is a strong squeeze on resources as the needs on the continent are expanding. Ladies and gentlemen, this financial crisis cannot make us surrender. It must awaken each one of us on this continent to tough reality of geopolitical cooperations. It underscores the need for bold and strategic leadership to reimagine education financing. It requires placing our money where our future is, and that is education. As African policymakers, we must strengthen domestic resource mobilization, broaden the tax base through digitization, and prioritize education as an economic investment to reap Africa's continent's demographic dividend. The time has come for Africa to take ownership of its educational destiny, transforming adversity into opportunity and building resilient financing systems that will secure learning for generations to come. Distinguished guests, here in Ghana and under the leadership of His Excellency President Mahama, we have fundamentally shifted our paradigm, treating education not as a social expense, but as the paramount strategic investment in our nation's future. This conviction is reflected in the unprecedented priority given to the sector, which this year received the largest nominal allocation in our history. To secure the future of our children, we have prioritized foundational learning and placed SHS and TVET programs on an unshakable financial foundation. Our strategy is both comprehensive and targeted. We have increased the budget for school feeding program by 33% and raised the capitation grant by a record 73% to dismantle financial barriers at the basic education level. We are supplying free menstrual pads to young girls to bridge the gender gap in education and address period poverty. We are aggressively tackling education infrastructure deficits by resourcing core institutions to provide infrastructure to close critical gaps at all levels of education. This year, we allocated 564.6 million Ghana cedis for comprehensive provision of curricular-based textbooks covering 4 sets of KG books, kindergarten books, 4 sets of primary textbooks for 800 learners, and 9 sets of JHS textbooks for 540,000 learners. And in 2026 budget, we are allocating even more for these curricular-based textbooks. Furthermore, we are strategically pivoting towards skills and tertiary education, expanding our TVET voucher programs, and eliminating academic fees for all first-year tertiary students. This comprehensive domestically financed blueprint is our sovereign response to a shifting global financial landscape, a decisive move to build a resilient, skilled, and competitive citizenry funded by ourselves for our own future. In this era of rapid digital transformation, our commitment is to leverage technology as a powerful tool for fiscal discipline and educational impact. Furthermore, we are actively fostering a new ecosystem of collaboration, moving from aid to strategic investment. This is evident by our partnership with the private sector through the Ghana TVET Voucher Project, which equips master craft persons and apprentices with market-relevant skills and our international collaborations to establish new public universities. These are not isolated projects. They are a deliberate strategy to pool resources, share expertise, and build a culture of shared responsibility for education, the next generation of Africans. Nevertheless, sustainable education financing cannot be achieved by any nation in isolation. This movement demands a collective continental response, one that reflects our shared determination to transform Africa's future through education. I therefore call upon my fellow African policymakers and our partners to embrace a new covenant of shared responsibility. We, as African leaders, must lead this charge by prioritizing education in our national budgets, not as a residual cost, but as a foundational investment in our demographic dividend. We must strengthen domestic resource mobilization by broadening our tax bases through digitalization and by combating illicit financial flows, ensuring that more of Africa's wealth is retained and invested in Africa's future. At the same time, we must explore diversified funding sources beyond traditional government budgets, engaging the private sector, encouraging strategic partnerships, and leveraging technology can unlock new avenues for investment in our educational system. Public and private collaborations can foster sustainable funding streams that are responsive to the evolving needs of our communities. We must also prioritize the efficient use of resources. Ensuring transparency, fighting corruption, and adopting innovative financial management practices will maximize the impact of every cedi, naira, or whatever the currency is spent on education. We owe it to our citizens, our taxpayers, and our future generations to be prudent and accountable towards our vital resource utilization. Equally important is the need for targeted investments that promote equity and inclusion. Marginalized groups, girls, and children in remote and underserved areas must not be left out. Innovative financing mechanisms, such as results-based financing and education bonds, can help extend educational opportunities to those who need them most. Furthermore, the rise of digital technology presents a unique opportunity to strengthen education financing. Integrating digital payments and data-driven approaches has the potential to enhance transparency, strengthen accountability, and widen access to educational funding. Through digital innovation, we can ensure that every contribution, no matter how small, reaches its intended purpose efficiently and effectively. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I extend a sincere call for transformation to our development and private sector partners. Let us move from donor-led intervention to strategic co-investment. Let us align capital, expertise, and innovation with our homegrown priorities, from STEM education and digital infrastructure to technical and vocational training, so that our investments directly empower the next generation of African thinkers, innovators, and leaders. In reimagining education financing in Africa, we are doing more than fulfilling a right. We are building the economic engine for the continent we desire. Let this triennial be remembered as the turning point when we moved from words to action, when we chose to invest in ourselves, believe in our own potential, and secure a prosperous and inclusive future for every African child. This is the cry of the African child, to have the opportunity to manifest its prosperous destiny. May long live Africa, may long live Ghana, may long live ADEA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Merci beaucoup, Honorable Ministre, pour votre discours. Ladies and gentlemen, please, this is to also inform you that this program is live on GTV, ChannelOne, Joy News, and Channel MOE, that is Channel Ministry of Education. Mesdames et messieurs, je tiens à vous informer que ce programme est en direct sur les chaînes suivantes: GTV, ChannelOne, Joy News, and Channel Ministry of Education. It is now time for the plenary session, as it's been announced early on. So for that matter, I would like to call on the moderator, and the person who is supposed to lead this discussion is no other person but the founder and CEO of Africa Leadership and Dialogue Institute, Dr. Julie Gichuru. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Julie.
Wow, I'm sure. As long as you can hear me, it works.
Across the continent, education.
Thank you. Thank you for your robust turnout to this ADEA gathering. Thank you for walking alongside ADEA on this crucial agenda. Thank you for being part of Africa's education story. Please give yourselves a round of applause. To set the context just before we start the panel discussion, allow me to introduce a video. Many African institutions are already on this important journey, and a lot is being done. This video highlights the partnerships of the MasterCard Foundation with many of these organizations. I can see so many of you in this room. Let's hear from those who are in the battlefield for education in Africa. Let's play the video to start. Thank you.
Across the continent, education remains the most powerful way to reclaim our story.
Be attentive, listen very carefully.
To build knowledge that reflects who we are and what we can become.
We are talking about the future of the continent. We're talking about the future of the economies of our continent. Education is a must.
Investing in secondary school education is important for preparing young people in Africa.
But financing education is more than paying school fees. It's an investment in systems, in teachers, and in every young dream waiting to be realized.
MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program aims to take young people from very, very disadvantaged backgrounds and then giving them an opportunity to get a quality education, but also wrap around leadership development and a give back, a service mindset.
We are giving the girls tuition, but they're still becoming pregnant. We are giving the girls tuition, they're still dropping out of school. If we want to keep the girls in school, we need to go beyond tuition.
Empowerment through scholarship is not enough to payment, or is not equal to payment of fees. It ought to be an integrated program that centers on the child. And when you center on the child, you realize the child needs much more than school fees.
This problem is too big for one organization. We are contributing to a whole ecosystem of players that are trying to make this world a better place.
To turn digital access into real opportunity, Africa must invest in the skills that shape creators, not just consumers.
When you look at the educational programs that we have, it's focused on how we're going to build AI literacy and AI skills across the board. Because without the skills, no amount of investment is going to unlock the shift that we want to see from being consumers to actually being creators.
We need to focus on education and skills, making sure that that's high quality, and then enabling young people to navigate work on their own.
We're providing learners with skills that are relevant today and tomorrow. Whatever they're learning they have to be globally competitive. Even if they choose to stay here, even if they're not leaving, they have an obligation to be globally competitive.
Every time we invest in education, we plant a seed, one that grows into confidence, creativity, and the kind of leadership that shapes generations.
Keep investing in education for girls. Educating a girl is educating a community as well as a nation.
This continent will be the youngest continent in the world. And that means a workforce, a future generation of leaders and innovators and Nobel Prize winners will come from Africa. And so investing in young people and investing in leadership is of paramount importance.
Already in it. We are, but we heard from the minister, progress in closing education gaps has been disappointing and slow. The minister says we are in a race against time. And the panel session this morning is focusing on that issue around financing education in Africa. We're asking, how can we build Africa's own education investment system? Allow me to welcome our panelists. Emmanuel Lamti, Group Chief Operating Officer, United Bank of Africa. A warm round of applause, please, as he comes up. Serene Bayetiam, who is the high-level envoy for the Global Partnership for Education. A warm round of applause for him as well. The Honorable Joseph Nsengimana, who is the Minister of Education of Rwanda. A round of applause for Joseph. And the Honorable Dr. Mrs. Huda Baba Sid Mohammed, who is the Minister of Education and the Reform for the Education System in Mauritania. Thank you. Thank you all for making the time to be with us. This is a challenging but exciting conversation. And Joseph, I want to begin with you. I know that we know that Rwanda has already made incredible gains. But if you would talk us through, with the limited resources we know that many of our governments are having to utilize, talk us through the innovative models that you are working on and how you are working on models with private sector, with development actors. What are you learning and what can we take from the things that you are doing at the moment? Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be speaking to this very important subject of education. I think the Honorable Minister, when he was making his remarks, did point out to the fact that in a number of ways we look at education as a social act, but it's both a social and an economic, and it's paramount if we are to succeed on a continent that we do actually invest in education. I think, Julie, when I reflect on the investment that we make in education, we have to start with looking at how much of that investment is our proper investment. Because it is imperative that domestic investment take the lion's share of the investment in education, because that does two things. One, it does highlight the importance of this sector, and second, it isolates the education sector from the volatile, turbulent international investment, particularly aid. We have seen in the last year or so that aid has been completely slashed. And so if your education system was entirely dependent on aid, you're in trouble. And so we cannot afford to really outsource education. It must be, first and foremost, a domestic investment. So for Rwanda, we have been increasingly investing in education. In the last few years, we have reached the 20% mark for our financial expenditures when you remove the debt servicing and other inflexible budget. But that really reflects the importance that the country puts on education.
Can we give that a round of applause, please?
So in addition to actually domestically invest in education, we also need to make sure that we are increasing efficiency within the sector itself. In our case, we've used technology. We have the school data management system that ensures that we are tracking everything at every school. We know how many kids are in school. We know how many kids did not show up on a daily basis. We know, how many teachers showed up. And this is important because the capitation grant, which is the money that's sent to school, is directly reflective of how many students you have at the school. And so having this kind of information allows the government to make data-driven decision rather than political decision. And so that increases the efficiency that we have within our system and ensuring that the domestic funding that's put in the system is used efficiently. We have our teacher management information system, which then we know how many teachers we have, how many at schools, and we don't have the issue of ghost teachers. Again, indicating this particular issue of spending or overspending, where you have to really be very efficient because of the lower resources that you have. And finally, I will say one of the things we need to be mindful of is to start looking at outcome. What are we investing for what outcome? And actually trace it. Today, we just launched an impact-based investment in Rwanda, looking at EDC, early childhood ECD, early childhood centers, development centers. And this is looking at private companies that are operating within this space, but they will be paid based on the outcome. And so these are some of the things that I think we could explore to ensure that we are efficient in how we're investing in education, but at the same time, we actually take control of our own education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Minister, let me come to you next as well. And just looking at some of the commitments that have been made in education already, and the Nouakchott Declaration, which calls on member states to allocate, I think it's between 4 to 7% of GDP on education, and 15 to 20, sorry, my mic is on and off. Can you hear me? Thank you. And 15 to 20% of budgets to strengthen domestic resource mobilization. You know, it's a great aspiration. A country like yours and the journey you're walking, tell us how you're trying to get there and how maybe ecosystem actors can support the journey to get to the achievement of that aspiration.
Bonjour. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, honorables panélistes, chères modératrices, Mesdames, Messieurs, distingués invités, tout protocole respecté, je suis ravie d'être avec vous aujourd'hui. Votre engagement s'inscrit dans l'agenda de l'Union africaine 2063 et dans la déclaration de Nouakchott. Et je suis honorée de partager avec vous la vision de la Mauritanie pour un modèle de financement durable de l'éducation au service d'une école équitable et performante. Concernant votre question, les 3 piliers essentiels pour arriver à un mécanisme de financement pérenne et durable en sont en fait optimisation des ressources nationales, aligner toutes les actions avec les priorités nationales et puis en fait consolider la coopération internationale. En ce qui concerne l'optimisation des ressources, la Mauritanie, en fait, son Excellence, le président de la République, a déclaré la guerre contre la corruption. Et désormais, les rapports de la Cour des comptes et les rapports de l'inspection générale de l'État sont publiés annuellement, chaque année. Et également, en fait, nous sommes en train de travailler en fait, pour mutualiser les ressources de différents partenaires. je pense que ce sont les piliers essentiels avec lesquels les pays africains peuvent en fait trouver et privilégier des mécanismes de financement pérennes et d'assurer aussi des ressources stables de financement. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you for your insights. I want to come now, Tiam, to your perspective. And the role that GPE has been playing. Let's just take a look at global partnerships. And we've referenced the era we are living in. We are facing very difficult times. It's very unique. But take us through how partnerships can continue to support building Africa's education system, but at the same time with an emphasis on ensuring Africa's education system can be independent as well. Please, over to you.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais d'abord remercier ADEA d'avoir associé le Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation à cette triennale qui se tient ici au Ghana et remercier les autorités ghanéennes aussi pour les dispositions prises en rapport avec ADEA pour l'organisation. J'ai eu le plaisir d'accueillir la triennale à Dakar lorsque j'étais ministre de l'Éducation nationale du Sénégal. Maintenant, je suis ici dans ma position d'envoyé de haut niveau du Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation. Je pense que dans les discours qui ont été tenus tout à l'heure, notamment par le ministre de l'Éducation du Ghana et par le ministre des Finances, il est ressorti quelque chose d'extrêmement important et qui a été rappelé aussi par le ministre de l'Éducation du Rwanda. Avant de compter sur un partenariat, il faudrait d'abord avoir un leadership solide au niveau du pays. On ne parle pas d'aide au développement pour l'éducation. On ne parle pas d'assistance au développement pour l'éducation. On parle de partenariat pour l'éducation. Pour être des partenaires, celui qui sollicite le partenariat doit être assez solide, avoir un leadership, avoir une politique éducative sur laquelle les autres partenaires s'alignent. Et c'est ça justement la différence distinctive du Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation. Le Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation s'aligne sur les plans nationaux qui sont définis par les pays. Et dans les définitions de ces plans nationaux, il ne s'agit pas seulement de plans qui est défini par le gouvernement. Il s'agit de plans sur lesquels travaillent tous les acteurs et partenaires de l'éducation. Déjà au niveau global, au niveau du conseil d'administration du Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation, il y a des représentants à part égale des donateurs et des pays bénéficiaires. Il y a des représentants de la société civile. Il y a des représentants des organisations multilatérales comme l'UNESCO, l'UNICEF, la Banque mondiale. Il y a des représentants de la société civile internationale comme International Education for Education et ainsi de suite. Donc ça, c'est le partenariat au niveau global. Et ce même partenariat doit être traduit au niveau des pays. Au niveau de chaque pays, le plan stratégique d'éducation doit être endossé par le groupe local des partenaires de l'éducation. Lorsque j'étais ministre de l'Éducation nationale au Sénégal, et c'est le cas encore, dans le groupe national des partenaires de l'éducation, vous avez le gouvernement représenté par le ministre de l'Éducation et le ministre des Finances et les autres ministères, la formation professionnelle, et ainsi de suite. Vous avez les associations d'enseignants, vous avez les collectivités territoriales, vous avez les représentants du Parlement, vous avez les associations de parents d'élèves, et vous avez aussi les autres partenaires au développement qui agissent dans le secteur de l'éducation. Ce groupe national permet d'aligner l'ensemble des politiques sur le leadership du gouvernement. Et ça permet aussi d'éviter des redondances et des duplications et des gaps dans les projets éducatifs qui sont financés. C'est ça le facteur distinctif du Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation. Donc on ne parle pas de partenariat mondial pour le financement de l'éducation, on parle de partenariat mondial pour l'éducation. C'est dans cette perspective-là que le partenariat est en train de lancer récemment lors de la dernière Assemblée générale des Nations Unies, sa campagne de reconstitution des fonds, sa campagne de financement. Cette campagne de financement, toujours dans l'esprit du partenariat, est co-parrainée par l'Italie, pays du Nord, et par le Nigeria, pays du Sud. Et ce partenariat, cette campagne de financement vise à mobiliser 5 milliards de dollars. Mais 5 milliards de dollars dans le but, par un effet de levier, de mobiliser 10 milliards de dollars supplémentaires. C'est un financement qui n'a jamais été obtenu par l'éducation. Ce financement permettra à 750 millions d'enfants d'avoir accès à l'éducation. C'est ça la valeur du partenariat. Nous pensons que le partenariat doit d'abord reposer sur la volonté du gouvernement. Et comme le ministre de l'Éducation l'a dit, le ministre des Finances aussi l'a dit tout à l'heure, c'est l'État qui doit montrer d'abord son engagement dans ses ressources propres pour financer l'éducation. Et seulement maintenant, les partenaires au développement viennent pour combler le gap qui existe. Au Sénégal, que je connais, c'était 26% du budget qui était affecté à l'éducation et ça représentait environ 8% du PIB. Et lorsqu'on prend le total des dépenses affectées à l'éducation, le financement domestique, qui comprend le financement de l'État et le financement des collectivités territoriales, était à 92%, pendant que le financement externe était de 8%. C'est ça qui permet d'avoir un système résilient et un système qui permet de produire des résultats. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for walking us through that. Emmanuel, let me come to a private sector perspective. And it was great to see so many voices on that video earlier of private sector actors in it, actively in it, transforming education outcomes in Africa. Tell us about the UBA journey. What are you doing and how can we dive in even deeper? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much and good morning to all the dignitaries, the ministers here. I must say that at UBA, we've got we're in 20 countries. We've got over 50 million customers across Africa. We've got operations in the US, the UK, Dubai, and other international centers. For us, I think what is critical to mention here is that we do not view, just like the Honorable Minister shared earlier on, education as a cost. We're talking about, or we're looking at sustainable value creation to our shareholders and all the partners that we work with as a bank. So it's never a cost. If we really, as a bank or as financial service firms, want to deliver returns above cost of equity and generate that long-term value creation, education is a must. It is a strategic investment, and that has been mentioned several times here. It is very, very critical for long-term value creation for our stakeholders. That enables us to innovate. We've got quality employees. They can innovate. Creativity, expertise, very, very critical. Let me come back specifically to what UBA we are doing. Talk about lending. Lending is very, very critical. Whether lending to schools, to universities, for infrastructure, or for various working capital needs, we've done that. And we are doing that. We realize that the gap is very huge. We will not be able to do that alone. But we recognize that there is a need for a leadership role by a significant financial service player. And that is where we come in as UBA, and we always encourage all partners within the financial services to come along. Indeed, it calls for a much more active role. As we speak now, you find that a lot of initiatives going on in Africa. But I think the next level requires a much more active role by all financial institutions. That is why we work with other partners, international organizations, the PARCOs, we've done transactions with other global organizations towards financing education. It's so critical. When it comes to SME lending to schools, and all of that, we do lending to that. So basically it's about connecting all the dots, an integrated approach that makes sure that our investments aligns with measurable outcomes. So lending is one of the critical areas we've been doing, both at the institutional level and then also at the individual level. Now the world of digitization is changing. So digital loans is one area that we are strongly in there, partnering with telcos and other players in there to make sure that productivity is not lost. We want the market woman in Accra or somewhere in Nigeria should be able to access financing facilities immediately, that convenience, so that he or she may be able to do his business and not think about stopping work and then going to look for funding or walking into a branch. So apart from lending to both corporates, institutions, SME schools, and all of that, within the educational value chain, the digital journey is very, very critical for us. So we've partnered with all telcos and other players within that space to make sure that we bring lending accessible and in a much more convenient way to all of our clients. But we didn't just stop there. We've got the Tony Elumelu Foundation, focused on 3 key pillars. Education is one of them, environment, and empowering SMEs. So we've got the Read Africa initiative that we've been running for a number of years now, encouraging learners across all African countries to read, not just focus on TikToks and all of that. But coming back to what the potential that exists, which we are keen on and playing that leadership role in harnessing the potential of domestic resources to support education. Let's talk about pension funds and then call it insurance. The amount of capital that is locked in there. You know, we believe strongly that it's about time. It's really about time to engage collaboratively with regulatory institutions, whether the government, central banks, the tax authorities, to make sure that we can be able to pool some resources collectively, rather than more into sovereign debt and all of that. So the point, we play more of a leadership role, and what we are doing there is now taking to the next level, where we would actively play a much more role in engaging with all the stakeholders and all of that. And I'll use this opportunity to emphasize the need for all other Pan-African institutions to come together in leading this, championing this approach towards more an active role in supporting the educational sector. It will be a win-win for all stakeholders, not only just for Africa, but for the world at large. Thank you.
Thank you. It is so, can we give that a round of applause? It is so wonderful to see how the private sector is in it, right? And we know this is happening across many African countries, but hearing that rallying call from you, I think encourages others to dive in deeper as well. And we need to be all together on this journey. Because of time, I'm coming to the final question for each of the panelists, and I'm going to pose one question to each of you. And Minister, I'll start with you on the end. What is a message that you have for a critical actor in this room, or a partner you want to communicate with or work with? A message around how you can work together to open up change at scale, to drive transformation at scale. Who do you want to speak to, and what do you want to appeal or to say to them, please?
Beaucoup. Comme vous le savez, nos pays africains font face à un déficit annuel estimé à 77 milliards de dollars. D'où vient la nécessité d'innover dans les mécanismes de financement, de trouver des nouvelles ressources financières. Nous devons travailler ensemble, exploiter en fait le potentiel fiscal pour appuyer l'éducation, consolider le partenariat public-privé et collaborer d'une façon mieux dans les différents partenaires. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. Joseph, please, Minister.
Thank you. Same question? Okay. I'll echo what the Honorable Minister just mentioned. I really honestly believe that we have all the expertise we need and experience on the continent. So if we all work together, we can actually solve this problem. I don't think that we do that collaboration as often as we should do. We don't learn from each other, but we sometimes go and learn from areas that are so different from us that you can't apply what you learn from them. While we have what has been working in different countries in Africa. So we need to increase that collaboration. And when we talk about solutions, we need to think about solution for the continent, not solution for one country. I think that's really, really imperative. And lastly, we all want to collaborate with everybody. So the GP has been a very good partner for us in Rwanda. And we would like to see actually the plenary conference be successful this coming year. And hopefully, because I think we can do a lot of more change on that. However, we also have to make clear that we will do this with or without other people. It's not an option for us. We will do it.
You can applaud that, yes.
So we will do it, but of course we want to partner, but without the partnership, we're still going to do it. And so I invite all of us as Africans to really collaborate together and to take our destiny in our own hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, and Minister Joseph. And we must do it. We have no choice but to do it, please, TM.
Yes, we must do it. You have no choice. It is the responsibility of government to do it. D'autant que le droit à l'éducation dans presque tous les pays, c'est un droit qui est inscrit dans la Constitution, et la Constitution des pays dit ce droit doit être garanti par le gouvernement, par l'État. Donc c'est la responsabilité première de l'État. Deuxièmement, on le fait à travers l'Union africaine, on le fait à travers les organisations sous-régionales comme la CEDEAO. Nous devons aussi promouvoir la coopération inter- et intra-africaine. C'est très important que nous puissions coopérer à ce niveau-là dans le domaine de l'éducation. Et troisièmement, le financement qu'on reçoit des pays donateurs n'est pas de la charité. Il faut bien le comprendre. C'est un financement pour une prospérité partagée. Le financement qu'on fait dans les pays en développement, in fine, c'est un financement pour une prospérité partagée. Parce que ce financement a un impact sur la croissance des pays qui reçoivent ça à long terme. Et c'est un financement aussi qui permet à des enfants d'aller à l'école. Et lorsque des enfants vont à l'école, c'est une façon de contribuer à la sécurité mondiale de façon globale. C'est ça que je voudrais aussi indiquer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. The final word, it seems, will be given to us by the private sector. Over to you, Emmanuel.
Hello. I think for the private sector, I would say we look up to governance. Governance is very, very critical. So when we talk about issues of financing, of the various innovative ways of financing, we would like to see more proactive engagement around transparency in allocating risk, fairness around the adaptability of schemes or structures to finance or partner with various institutions and all of that. That's very, very critical for us. So we really want that proactive engagement. The right regulatory incentives around taxes becomes very, very critical for us as well, where we can engage and know what is ahead. With that strong governance structures, we are able to also plan resources and allocate capital internally for the benefit of, or the greater good of all of our stakeholders. Number two, the other point that I think is critical for us, especially in the financial services sector, is how we make much more progress towards harmonizing regulations on the continent. We've seen the potential benefits and advantages from the AFTA project by Afrexim Bank, and I think it's about time we deepen or we follow through with more proactive engagement in harmonizing regulations around capital, banking, insurance. Those are my final words on that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, as we close, I want to also take responsibility as an African